top seeds matter. We've seen that in so many times, and so these players are playing it out. They probably feel pretty comfy, but they're going to play their hearts out.
100%, yes. In top 32, the highest seed does get the play draw priority.
Frank Karsten, crazy.
You want to go first or second? I'm expecting most players to go first. And we have a very exciting final round of Swiss for you guys.
Oh nein, es ist Amethyst Steel Mirror Match, wie super langweilig.
We have Alex Hendrickson. This is actually a new name to me, but we've been saying it all weekend, Katie. A lot of players keen to make their name and like really cement themselves in the Lorcana history books, and I'm sure Alex is one of those.
Und dann noch mit Frank Karsten, dem Tankmaster.
Already started to etch his name into the Greater Luminary, the first ever Disney Lorcana Challenge Champion from all the way back in Lille.
Ja, der Mike Loconto auf Lorcana. Aber anscheinend ist er doch nicht der Mike Loconto auf Lorcana. Er macht mehr als Mike Loconto.
Disney Lorcana official website and just a seasoned veteran of trading card games anyway. One of the most respected people in the game, Katie.
And we're seeing something that I personally love. This is a man that is played trading card games, and suddenly you see this man wearing a Stitch shirt, and you love to see these people coming in and being like, I'm going to play Disney Lorcana, and then they're like, I'm a Disney adult now.
Katie, I'm going to flex on you. I sang A Whole New World with Frank Karsten on the Magic Carpet Ride at Worlds. That is a flex. I am showing off, but we're going to be getting into it. As
Name dropping.
See, this is an Amethyst Steel Mirror match.
Amazing ist nur, dass ihr fertig geworden seid bis
The
jetzt.
script of this match a little bit, Katie. Generally speaking, you want to play your curve. It's all about 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, and then establishing a 4 drop and singing one of the most powerful songs we still have in the
Redfish, Bluefish,
game, Strength of a Raging Fire. So whoever is on the play for this game, that is going to be hugely fundamental to the tempo of this game. And it does appear that Frank Karsten is on the play. He's going to ink that Hypnotic Strength that gives Challenger 2 to a character and allows you to draw a card. But perhaps more noticeably, Katie, is an easy answer to those illusions, such as the Iago Giant, Spectral Parrot. And speaking of illusions, we're going to see the Giant Cobra going into the Inkwell for Alex, and he's going to match the 1-drop Captain Hook with another Captain Hook, the reprint that was printed in Reign of Jafar, Katie.
Yes, but with fun new art, which I love that we're doing that. New cards, new faces here. But both of those are cards that they don't necessarily love inking, but sometimes you do have to ink cards, and you say, don't worry, better ones are coming. But that is a fun card, a flying little fairy here. And she is a fast flyer that is evasive, but she's in the Inkwell. But later.
Later, absolutely, yeah. This Tinkerbell, not a card.
Interessante choices. Was hat Frank Karsten da für ein Deck?
Amethyst Steel deck list, but this Tinkerbell, very spicy, a 3-cost Inkable, 1/3 quest for 2.
Vielleicht mit noch 6 Top Tinkerbell mit Shift.
We've been saying a lot over the course of the
Wäre ja dann
weekend,
interessant.
Katie, evasive.
Yeah, and evasive is extremely powerful because you do have tap answer. Now, this matchup is a little more annoying. We have Genie, Satisfied Dragon flying around. Sometimes we have Happy, Genie, Elsa. So the names keep going. So it's not so bad putting that down in the Inkwell. But we notably see a Calhoun, which is perfectly sized for the challenge ability of a Captain Hook. But having more pressure there is just keep building. Now, he is questing and saying, how do you want to deal with that?
Yeah, so this is an interesting quest because obviously the opposing Captain Hook would be able to take out Frank's one and survive to tell the tale. But Calhoun
Yes, it would, ganz genau.
Marine Sergeant,
Frank Karsten hat es durchdacht.
And when she banishes a
droht mit dem
character during your
Clapback.
turn, you gain 2 laws. So Frank basically offering up a pretty favorable challenge for Alex, but saying, I'm going to get you on the crackback with this Calhoun. And Alex is going to not take that bait. He's going to mirror the move for move with his own Calhoun and say, no, Frank, I see what you're trying to do, and I will not fall into this hole.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery.
Absolutely.
So sometimes I see what my opponent does, and I say, well, I'd like to try it. The difference.
That looks like a good move. I think I'll give it a go.
The difference is, you know, one person is drawing cards, so there's going to be that disparity. So at some point, Frank is going to need to draw some cards. We see that Dumbo enter the Inkwell, which he would probably like to use after this Satisfied Dragon hits the board, or possibly even later when he's got some more evasives on the board. But however, we put him down in the Inkwell and play that Genie Satisfied Dragon, which is a good answer to any evasive that might come down later.
Absolutely. This Genie Satisfied Dragon, such a well-statted card. 3-cost Inkable, 3/4 gaining evasive during your turn. Fantastic. Again, evasive is very prevalent in our metagame at the moment, and this 4 willpower means it can quite often survive a challenge into something like a opposing Dumbo, and of course it's not too hard to boost this Genie up, maybe with a Hypnotic Strength. Perhaps Frank Karsten is playing the Madam Mim Tiny Adversary, affectionately known as Skater Mim by the community. So this Genie Satisfied Dragon is super good, but also establishing the 3-cost Singer, Katie. Oh, and this is very interesting. We are going to not establish a 3-drop for Alex. Instead, we're going to play a second Calhoun and fire the cannons, Mr. Smee, into the opposing Captain Hook. Yo, that's got to feel bad for Mr. Hook.
Yeah, Captain Hook is definitely going to talk to Mr. Smee and say, that was not what I meant. You're following things too literally there. But it does help break the stalemate. A lot of times these steel matches seem to be beat for beat. They're going to keep going wider and wider, so there's a point where somebody breaks the stalemate. And that cannon, while small, does kind of help make the math go towards Alex's side a bit. But we do see that Dumbo, who's been the star of this weekend, the 9th wonder of the world.
He is the 9th wonder of the universe. A fantastic new card that was introduced in Fabled Forecasting.
Ist die Frage, ob du jetzt deinen Genie benutzen willst, wo du nächste Runde mit dem eine Karte ziehen kannst. Ich weiß es ja nicht. Aber er tradet 2 zu 1 eigentlich, ne? Warum nicht?
That exact same ability. So this is our 4-ring turn, so no way that we can trigger this ability straight away. But this Genie Satisfied Dragon will not be making history, not in the Dumbo way, but looking like we may be either singing strength or going on a quest. I would be expecting a strength here, which obviously the Calhoun has resisted.
Ich wollte schon sagen, wie meinst du, it won't be making history? Zum ersten Mal im Leben wird damit erkundet.
None of the bodies on Alex's board can deal with this Genie without a little buffer. A combat trick, as very well-known player in Ed Chu likes to call it, something like Hypnotic Strength, or again, the Madam Mim Tiny Adversary.
Yeah, sometimes you'll
Combat trick, der Super Magic Ausdruck.
And it's something that takes a while to get used to, but that's just saying you don't necessarily know what they're going to play. There could be a Tiny Adversary that's going to come down on Adam, and we talked about Hypnotic Strength, like you mentioned. And they say you have to respect it because you don't know if your opponent's going to do it, but you have to respect it a little bit less if none of the characters have evasive. So it's kind of, you get a lot more comfort there. And so I think there's 2 wars. There's the card draw war, the removal war, and the evasive war. And so the thing with Genie is he only is evasive on your turn. So he is easily taken down, but with 2 characters. So 2 for 1's not so bad.
I think if I'm Frank Karsten, I am quite happy with that move there, losing both the Captain Hook and the Calhoun. Now the Calhoun, this was sequenced correctly, the Calhoun challenging second, so Alex going up to 2 lore there, courtesy of the level up ability, but still a 2 for 1. Every card matters in every matchup, this one no exception, and Alex going to bring his own Wonder of the Universe onto the board and passing back to Mr. Karsten. We've not seen a Strength of Raging Fire yet, Katie, which is quite often the tempo swinger of the Amethyst Steel matchup, especially in the mirror.
Yeah, and this is definitely mirror, mirror on the wall. These 2 decks are identical right now on both sides, so it's interesting. I mean, they've definitely come to this deck board state on different paths, but they're both at 2 lore. They both have the same cards, so now it's just what cards are you drawing. The second war we talk about, we have card draw, and then the dock ability. So there's something of the, where is the strength, where are our dock, Bold Knight, and now we have our Dumbo. So it's just these puzzle pieces, and who's going to find them first and use them at the time that's most advantageous.
Yeah, absolutely. And this Amethyst Steel deck, as you mentioned, Katie, loves to utilize the Bold Knight. Drastic times call for drastic measures, so we do like to empty our hand as much as possible and then gain some advantage from Dog, or indeed Yzma, Conniving Chemist, who can exert to allow you to draw up to 3 cards. I think this is going to be the breaking records ability Dumbo is going to exert. We're going to pay an ink. Maybe not, though. Frank says, let me think about that just a moment longer, but definitely on Frank's mind. And you know,
Frank's favorite statement.
The opposing Dumbo could answer it, but if I'm Frank, I don't mind that, because my Dumbo drew me a card and gave me a lore, and then your Dumbo didn't do anything other than answer mine. And again, that's pretty good for Frank. He got a card and a lore out of it.
Yeah, and he doesn't know if there's going to be one character that drops and a strength thing by Dumbo, because that's another possibility. So it's kind of a now or never situation when you're thinking about strength. So it's kind of, he paused and said, well, I might not get the chance, and you kind of just have to play around. And White Rose is a classic card to just get a little bit more reach, as we call it, where you get just a lore for playing it. She comes in, she brings in 1 lore, and is a 3/3 that's just a nice body for challenging.
Yeah, we no longer have the Merlin go. He's living in his best infinity life, but we do indeed have the White Rose, as obviously as a 3-cost character, and indeed I would expect to see Giant Cobra in. We know it's in Alex's deck list because he inked it turn 1. I'd be very surprised if Frank wasn't playing it. If you went on play, you may discard a card to gain 2 lore, and that's the thing, Katie. Both these players need to respect the opponent's ability to play these lore.
Das spielen die bestimmt, aber beide grinden jetzt erstmal den Dumbo nachkräften. Wer legt den nächsten Evasive Character?
Looks like you found a Palace Guard off the top of the deck, a perfectly reasonable 1-drop sometimes.
Perfectly reasonable, yeah.
It is your preferred 1-drop just because they don't really play anything on turn 1 other than a Basil or maybe a Rafiki, so the Palace Guard can say, well, I'm going to happily quest in your face, thank you very much.
Yeah, and I mean, now we're kind of looking and seeing they're not a lot of impressive, but we did see an impressive card get inked by Frank. That Elsa Fifth Spirit can be a huge stalemate breaker.
Sure.
A lot of times these steel boards, they just stand up straight and they look at each other and say, no, you go, no, you go. And Elsa can be a great way to say, you know what, I'll go first. And in this case, she is in the inkwell. I do wonder what the other card is. Whenever I see a good card go in the inkwell, I'm like, don't worry, they have a second. But we don't know that. It could be an issue where he just needs to get it inked.
Yeah, we just need to go as wide as we can here. We're building up our numbers for strength for Raging Fire, and again, it's the core essence of what this deck is trying to do. The identity of Amethyst Steel is, we don't want a hand, but I want a hand. No, I don't want a hand, but no, I want to have a hand.
Yeah, and there we go. We see a strength and a dock in hand, so it does look like he's
Jetzt voll
working.
gut. Strength of Raging Fire kann man gut rauslassen auf den Duno.
Maybe I'm going to get another thing, so we're going to see how he combines these three cards.
Das passiert
Is this
bestimmt
the
jetzt
last time
gleich.
we'll see Dumbo, or is he going to go after
Vielleicht
that
zieht sich vorher noch eine rein mit
But
Dumbo.
he is going to kind of strategize here and see what order does he want to handle all these.
Wie washed up ist er genau? Wir gucken
He needs to make
jetzt.
sure that he keeps the characters. For example, if he challenges that Calhoun, then strength is a little less powerful here, so he just has to make sure he uses these cards right before he goes into dock time.
Yeah, I'd love to see the strength sung by the White Rose initially to remove the Dumbo, or the Dumbino, as our friend JDZ likes to affectionately call our favorite big-eared elephant. Our Happy is going to go into the inkwell, a perfectly reasonable one-drop, and it does appear that White Rose is going to be putting on his best rendition of Strength of a Raging Fire, and Dumbo is going to be banished, and then we're going to play a dock for good measure. And
Na klar, super geil alles.
Yeah, this Happy, perfectly reasonable inclusion, this Amethyst Steel, we see it every now and again. It
Alles ist perfectly reasonable.
Turn, which obviously is good for answering opposing evasives. Maybe we can boost it up with Hypnotic Strength, so we're hitting for 4, or indeed combining with our own Dumbo to just make some history.
Yeah, it's exciting to see the two dwarfs together. We know there's 5 more missing, but maybe we'll get them in there one day. But now,
one day, playable Grumpy when? Question mark.
Now that he's at his strength fund, he does get to go ahead and decide what else he's going to do throughout his turn. He is going to go ahead and take advantage of the Dumbo effect, getting that one lore, getting more cards in hand. He had 2 from dock, but 1 more card is always better because cards
Klar, immer noch eine mehr als du.
survive. And then he goes ahead and trades those Calhouns, so the Calhoun war is over. Whoop!
Oh,
I spoke too soon.
You definitely did. It turns as one
Was sind wir eigentlich im
Calhoun
Weg mit
is
unseren Namen?
eliminated. We're going to call
Nö.
another one up from the
Optimal.
ranks to the front line. Yeah, this is looking super good.
Weder
for
ich noch
Karsten.
ihr.
Alex with only 2 cards in hand, a Diablo and a Palace Guard. Not the most formidable board I have seen in my Lorcana career.
Nee.
Diablo, of course, will be allowed.
Frank Karsten hat es an sich gerissen. Finally seinen Play First Advantage. Ich meine, wenn beide alle genau dasselbe ausspielen und so. Das
Problem
ist, jetzt hat er auch die Dumbo-Lufthoheit.
So I do see a Dumbo in Alex's hand. So he may be for all 6. Inking strength is never great, but it appears we're just trying to empty our hand as much as possible. We're going to put 1 damage on the White Rose, taking 3 in return. Is this going to be a bell turn? I do think we're going to see the Accomplished Mystic, and that is another way to deal with Dumbo, Katie. 3 damage
Dumbo-Hoheit
from the
egalisiert.
Guard, and suddenly Dumbo is banned from the circus.
Exactly. They said, please don't come back.
Jetzt kommen aber Doc und Calhoun in den Palace Guard rein.
It honestly is heartbreaking.
It recently.
All
the clowns.
I don't know why people are mean to that
Und
card.
White
They've
Rose
seen
noch
the
ein Lore
movie,
machen.
He's been through enough, but this Accomplished Mystic is such an amazing card because
broken. I think unreasonably good.
It is unreasonably good, and it's a card that was very slept on, I would say, because I mean people were running a little, maybe 1 or 2.
I think it was respected. You would see it every now and then. It was like, okay, yeah, Bell's a reasonable addition, but post rotation, moving 3 damage, I think is borderline bonkers, mate. We are going to see
bonkers,
first
yeah.
Genie wish fulfilled coming down, and the what comes next ability going to allow us to draw a card, and of course does have that evasive keyword as a 2/4 quest for 2 character. And yeah, if the Genie gun goes unchecked, it will start to run away with lore. We're going to put Doc into the Palace Guard, and we're going to finish the job off with Calhoun. So Happy, yeah, Doc taking 1 damage, but of course that Calhoun would resist 1.
Doc Happy, Doc.
I felt nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, so much of these games we talk about retaining value, having value and retaining value, and Frank has done
Ja, das ist doch Frank jetzt endgültig an der Sonne.
Powerful things for retaining as much value as possible. That Palace Guard is able to, he had to do a 2-for-1, but it wasn't a 2-for-1 because he kept both characters. Palace Guard is gone. He got 2 lore out of the deal, and now he's
Es war schon der 2-for-1, nur
board, so he's been able to keep drawing those cards, keeping the board clean, and not losing too many resources on his side. He still has a nice 2 cards in hand, so he's feeling okay, but we still need to see what kind of dastardly deeds can happen on Alex's side.
I do like some dastardly deeds, and down comes that card you mentioned earlier, Katie. Elsa, the 5th Spirit, another card that was already very, very good, but post-rotation, absolutely setting the trend of the meta. We no longer have the board wipes we used to, so it very much is a build a wall and never turn them sideways meta, unless you're evasive. But Elsa will come down and say, I'm not so sure I agree with that. Let's start some challenges, and here we do see
so ist es.
Character exerted, and what is Elsa going to do. She could cleanly answer the White Rose, which I would be tempted to do, because obviously that's another 3-cost character. We do have the Genie that can sing songs, but if the Genie's singing songs, we don't mind that too much.
Aber okay, was hast du jetzt?
Exactly.
Einen Lorbeer noch.
Also was famous for not wanting to open the party
Aber jetzt
doors,
kann ja
but it does seem in this
Doc
match
gegen
she's
Bell
really the one
traden,
getting the
theoretisch.
party started.
Würde ich wahrscheinlich sogar machen. Doc gegen Bell traden. Elsa mit Genie überfahren, mit Diablo Einhorn machen. Dann ist es Genie und Diablo gegen Diablo.
Frank has most speaking of, you have to
Voll
respect
gut
it. You have
eigentlich.
to respect that there's 3 ambient damage just hanging out, but it also made to your advantage. It makes it easier. That Doc now could technically take down that Bell on its own.
I would be extremely surprised if to not see this Bell answered, whether with the Doc or maybe we've got a Hypnotic Strength to boost up the Diablo. That would be pretty good because, as you're saying, Katie, 3 damage sitting in an Amethyst deck is a dangerous thing. We are going to see the Genie wish fulfilled and drawing a card. If you're just joining us, we are in round 12 of the Disney Lorcana Challenge. Doc is going to take that trade into Bell, challenge. Well, it is trade into Bell. Sounds pretty good. And the Genie going to finish off that Elsa again, really prioritizing making sure.
Genau so ist es. Voll gut für Frank Karsten alles.
Targets for a second Bell accomplished Mystic. To be fair, Katie, Purple
Denke, da kann man nichts mehr machen.
Tend to not play a lot of Bell. I think 2 is generally the number that you would expect to see, but that means there's probably at least 1 more in Alex's deck. But who knows? Maybe Alex is on a thick account of them. We'll never know. Well, we might find out.
We have seen some very funny lists this weekend because I think the more established the meta is, sometimes people say everybody expects this, but they never expect that. So it's been interesting.
They never expect the Spanish Inquisition.
Exactly what I expected, but either way, Amethyst, you can never trust that they're always up to some
Amethyst
absolute
always
mischief.
up to shenanigans. But yeah, if you're just joining us, round 12 of the Disney Lorcana Challenge.
Ich habe geguckt, wie hieß es?
8 rounds yesterday, 4 rounds today.
Der Film hieß Sliding Doors im Englischen und im Deutschen hieß er, glaube ich, Sie liebt ihn, sie liebt ihn nicht. Und es war so der halt Insider so in diesem Move immer, in diesem Move, aber auch in diesem Movie, dass ausgelabert wurde so, ey, remember what the Python Boys say? No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Aber dann im Deutschen weißt du so, ey, weißt du, was Balu der Bär sagen würde? Probier's mal mit Gemütlichkeit. Viel trauriger als das Original. Aber passender zum Disney-Thema.
Yeah, Genie will do. Just a nice get rid of that Dumbo that he was hoping to use. And Dumbo is such an interesting card because he obviously is important in these decks, but it's rarely a card that you're going to play in your opponent's scoops. Dumbo's
Wobei, Monty Python-based MTG Set.
Similar to like Rapunzel work, but by himself we saw that if he comes down, you have an answer.
Dr. Who haben wir ja schon gesehen.
Dumbo demands an answer because it can start to run away with the game, especially if again a board like Frank Karsten's here. If he's able to play another Dumbo, these Genies are going to be making history. But I think the writing is pretty on the wall here. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to count Alex out, but Frank Karsten's board looking pretty formidable. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lore on board. So as our friend Joe Curley Spessy would like to put it, story on board, and Frank Karsten is going to grab that story star and take game 1. Commiserations to Alex Hendrickson, but he will be on the play this time. We would love to see a game. As casters, we love a game 3, Katie.
We do, I know.
Ja, aber nicht in diesem Matchup, come on.
Oh, as a player, I don't want a game 3.
I know.
I want a 2-0 and get an early break, mate.
But as a player, if you're on stream, you should like a 2 or 3 game because then both of you get to show I can do it.
Nah,
Look.
you without the stress, mate.
Okay,
fine.
No.
2-0, all right.
I get enough stream time. If I'm playing.
That's true. Get me out of here. Let me win and go to the coffee stand and buy a $10 coffee, please.
Exactly. Let me win or lose quickly so I can get out of here with as much pride left as I can.
Exactly. Now, I really love seeing this match because Frank Karsten is somebody who speaks very much about when to quest, where the value lays. And so in this mirror match, it really is going to be how are you using
Bin gespannt, wie er es jetzt navigieren wird on the draw.
This is a deck that it has some aggro type flavors. You're always going to see, like you said, a 1-2-3 drop, but it really, once you get to that mid range, is where you're really using these very powerful cards. That's a Bell Accomplished Mystic, the Spirit, and then the Genie. And so using those in the most responsible way is the key between winning or losing. And we see some pretty valuable tools here, some pretty heavy uninkables. So he's going to go ahead and choose to ink a Dumbo, which doesn't feel so good, but he kind of has to with those inkables in his hand.
I think it's the ink that you have to make here, because again, we must make sure that we're getting that 1-2-3 3 curve and then into a turn 4 drop, or even a turn 4-3 and a 1, 2 and a 2. Obviously Dumbo is fantastic, but it's not as important to establish in the early game. You wouldn't even necessarily curve into it on 4 in there. Like, you can, that's fine, but I think more often than not, you would prefer to be getting a Genie down on turn 4. But we're going to see the Diablo was the opening play from Alex into that Dumbo, as you said, and a Captain Hook coming down. The forceful duelist for Frank Karsten.
Threatened den Diablo direkt ohne Ende. Aber Diablo ist natürlich der beste One-Drop. Und Calhoun provided Coverfire. Traust du dich wirklich reinzukloppen? Eher nicht. Captain Hook tradet allerdings, also Captain Hook tradet halt so virtuell gegen den Calhoun, gegen die Calhoun. Calhoun wird sich nicht erschöpfen und Captain Hook dafür auch nicht, und so ist es dann halt. Gameplay. To swallow aber auch.
And I love games that have these silly little cards where you look at me and you're like, that's just a silly little guy. Another one where we say, that's just a silly little card. And sometimes people look at this Diablo and go, well, I don't want you to have a card, and you just quest for 1. What's the big deal? And then you end up letting it quest 2, 3, 4 turns.
But Frank Karsten spielt Mr. Smee, warum denn nicht Jafar?
Said, I don't want you to, I don't care enough. I'll go ahead and I'm not going to use my hook. I'm not going to fall for your Calhoun bait. You can go ahead and keep questing. Now, how long will he let that happen? We don't know. But that is why Diablo can be fun, is it's kind of a, what are you going to do about it card?
And here we see 2-cost Mr. Smee, Steadfast Mate. And a shout out to Steadfast, one of the original Lorcana content creators, someone I miss very much.
Okay.
A shout out to you, but I would like to talk about this Mr. Smee for a moment, Katie, because it's interesting. As a villain and a Jafar enthusiast, I have always I've said, yo, you should be running the Royal Vizier, because why wouldn't you? He's just cooler, right? However, if you're thinking a little bit more about it, I do think Mr. Smee is objectively correct to run over Jafar Royal Vizier. The pure reason being that these Sapphire Steel ally decks do include this Mr. Smee more often than not, because again, he does have that ally characterization. So if you can hide your Amethyst cards in the first couple of turns through inking and then perhaps you force your opponent into think, well, not force them, but you leave the door open for your opponent to consider, oh, are you a Sapphire Steel deck and you just missed your ramp? That sucks for you. But I just think it's an interesting reason why you prefer to run Mr. Smee over Jafar. But again, I'm never going to complain to see Jafar.
Well, speaking of Jafar, we saw one go to the Inkwell as Jafar Aspiring Ruler, which is another one.
Das labern wir jetzt erstmal rein.
Both of these decks have cards that they put in that make you go, do you have it or do you don't? And there's another one that is surprising. We see Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, but that the Aspiring Ruler can give Challenger 2 when you play it to another character. So now, for the rest of the game, Alex has to remember he saw that and wonder if he's going to see it again the minute he turns something sideways. But either a Tinkerbell into the Inkwell.
Tinker 1, Tinker 2.
And then we have the Genie Satisfy Dragon, which is another fun little evasive tool. So if we get a Dumbo later, he is ready to be exerted to draw cards. But what else are we seeing here?
I think this is really interesting just seeing this Tinkerbell, right? Because we already saw in game 1 the 3-drop Amethyst Tinkerbell, which was very cool. Obviously, just
damit die da mal ein bisschen was lernen. Die können ja wahrscheinlich alle kein Deutsch.
Is more of a mid-range tool. These Amethyst Steel decks, they tend to be a little bit more aggressive, and they don't often play characters over 5 cost. But
ich habe nicht dran gedacht, ehrlich gesagt, an das, was er gerade erwähnt hat. Das könnte es so vielleicht bringen, ist aber schon schwierig, weil du musst ja Stil inken. Und was wirst du denn inken? Calhoun wirst du nicht inken. Wenn du so Captain Hook inkst, dann eigentlich können sie sich vielleicht auch schon eher denken, wer du bist, weil ich glaube, dass diese Ally-Decks keinen Captain Hook spielen. Das heißt, die Frage ist, wirst du dazu überhaupt in der Lage sein, diese... Klar, im Zweifelsfall mit 3 Smee natürlich, aber wie realistisch ist das? Ich meine, diesen 3-Drop Captain Hook haben wir on-stream schon gesehen. Ich glaube, gestern. Also ich glaube, technically haben wir ihn heute gesehen, aber halt als wir diese Matches von gestern zu Ende angeguckt haben. Da wäre der Smee dann schon abgefrisselt gewesen. In seiner Quest-Ability eingeschränkt. Und ich weiß nicht, ja, wie gesagt, also diese Mindgames. Und vielleicht ist das korrekt. Ich kann es nicht hundertprozentig abstreiten. Aber ich sag's mal so, du wirst so den Spot nicht sehen, wo im Nachhinein du so die Story erzählen kannst. Dass, oh, mein Gegner dachte, ich wäre Sapphire Steel. Er hat vielleicht dann so ein subtiles Missplay gemacht. Das fällt dir umgekehrt aber nicht auf. Wohingegen, wenn du so siehst, wie dein Mr. Smee jetzt nicht erkunden kann wegen des freaking Captain Hook 3 Drop, dann wirst du dir denken, ich hätte vielleicht doch besser den Jafar inkluden sollen. Deswegen weiß ich nicht, ob das so objectively correct ist.
Is such an important card for these Amethyst Steel decks. So just being able to increase the amount of characters you have on board. Of course, strength doing 1 damage to an opposing character for each character you have in play. So it's certainly important to go very wide.
Yeah, in some of these matches, I am an Amber Steel player, and even Amber Steel versus Amethyst Steel, there are times
schlägt sich ja gut, der Flaggen-Karsten, auf jeden Fall.
Going wider and wider and wider, and that's why Elsa is extremely important. And I think that if you've seen Ravensburger employees talk about how it's important because it does have interaction. There's times where you're both just staring and going, I don't want to do it, please. And Elsa can sometimes break up this tension here. But but we see here another Jafar that we talked about respecting it, and that Jafar can help with challenging, but you can't challenge if nothing's exerted. So, and with this 3 ink, it limits his options as far as fun things he can do.
Yeah, and not to mention something
Was denn für ein Jafar?
to,
Achso, da, dieser 3-Drop Jafar.
Because he did go for, he was on the
Ja,
play,
okay.
and we see him sitting there at only 3 ink. Probably another reason why we saw that dock. Probably a bit of a blocky hand. We are going to play the Aspiring Ruler, who's going to give Challenger 2 to a character. Diablo going to go on a little quest, bringing Alex up to 3. Are we going to go on a quest with anything else? Of course, this Aspiring Ruler can quest for 2.
Yeah, and I mean, this Diablo, he's kind of saying, it wouldn't be the worst case if you came from my Diablo. I go ahead and I get a card, and I would really like that. But then Frank knows he wants a card. The difference between a good player and a great player is they play very heavily around things that benefit your opponent too. I get very greedy sometimes. I'm like, I'm going to quest with my Daisy because of course I want that 2 lore. But they're like, no, never, because you have to think about how desperate your opponent is. And when you see that they didn't ink,
richtig, nie erkunde ich mit meiner Daisy. Die stärkste Karte. 1-4 nichts.
Yzma going into the inkwell, and down comes
there we go.
The Scar, finally. King,
yes.
I did not expect to see it, and we got a reader here.
Ich auch nicht. Oh, wow.
This is a 5-cost uninkable, 5-4, quest for 2. All your allies get +1 strength. And
oh Leute, ich dachte, er kostet 6.
with me ability at the end of your
Wie gut
turn,
ist das denn?
character is exerted. You may draw cards equal to the strength of chosen ally
Sagst dir,
character.
Turn 2 Tinkerbell,
If you do,
Turn 3,
discard 2 cards and banish that character.
6-4 Ally,
Yes.
mit Reckless.
Maybe you would play the Smee just to trick your opponent into thinking you're
Turn
Sapphire
4.
Steel. In this instance, there's no trickery needed.
Pluto.
We are actually benefiting
Turn 5.
from the ally
Scar, sofort Erschaft reingelegt.
I am very shocked
Hast du
to
schon
see
6
this
Lore.
Scar come down, but I'm very happy
Frisst du
about
dir
it.
den
And I'm very
6, den 3-Drop rein, um 7 zu ziehen und 2 zu discarden.
I'm sorry to tell you, we will not be
Das ist das verbotene Rubin-Stahl-Ally-Deck, was ich mir vorstelle, was man mal bauen könnte. Die Frage ist nur, wie man das alles immer zieht, beziehungsweise was man macht, wenn man das nicht zieht. Den Scar sollte man for sure irgendwie finden. Es gibt noch ein paar andere Kartor-Sachen. Und ich glaube, dass es am Ende auch ich mehr Bock haben werde, so ein Deck zu bauen, was halt mostly Stahl ist und nur ganz wenig Rubin-Karten hat. Oder zumindest vor allem nur ganz wenig Rubin-Charaktere hat. Damit ich diesen Steel-Champion rauslassen kann. Den Steel-Champion und das Sword of Hercules und den Shir Khan. Und dann challenge ich deine Charakter und gain mehr Lore, als wenn ich erkundet hätte. Das ist ziemlich krass, du kannst dann echt wenig machen. Weil wenn du erkundest, dann räume ich deine Charaktere ab und mache noch mehr Lore als du. Wenn du nicht erkundest, dann erkunde ich so mit einem. Wirst du ihn nicht abchallengen? Wenn doch, dann challenge ich deine Guys ab und mache mehr Lore. Könnte ich mir für stark vorstellen. Frage ist allerdings, wie man nicht dauernd keine Handkarten hat. Man kann ja nur so viele Dock rauslassen. Man kann aber schon, es gibt so ein paar Möglichkeiten. Gerade in Stahl. Muss man sich mal angucken, das Deck. In Stahl gibt es ja viele gute Challenger. Calhoun würde ich da 100% drin haben wollen, Captain Hook. Ok. Welchen One-Drop nehmen wir denn noch? Stahl, One-Drop, der gut challenged.
because we have, you know, a nice, healthy 4/4 that quests for 2. That's great. Then we're moving damage to do removal, and you're kind of healing too, because suddenly that Genie that could have been had something swing back at it and easily take it back is now fully at the full strength that willpower he was before that challenge. So it's doing so much, and now it's whittling away at Alex's board.
Man, this is super cool. So it seems Frank Karsten going for a much more mid-range version of that skill. And you could definitely argue that the characters are mid-range, but again, they tend to only play their 5-cost characters only really being Elsa and Belle. Obviously, they play
Legality
Genies,
in Core.
A bit more
Es gibt
aggressive,
12
really. We don't go above the 5 cost, but we've got Bells, we've got Elsas and Scar, so a little more thickness into that mid category.
Exactly, and it's exciting as we talk about mid-range versus aggro, because you can technically make your opponent play a little differently, alter their hand a little differently.
Mulan is probably good. Mulan,
I know these two colors are generally pretty aggressive, meaning they're the most powerful at the start of the game, but if you start playing a certain way and then you find out that it is more mid-range, meaning the middle of the game is when it really starts firing up, you go, I have miscalculated and used my resources in a way that I regret. We do see 3 cards in hand. I can't see entirely what they are. We saw 1 strength used already to great effect, but
Elsa, I think there's another strength. I think that's
ja, interessant, könnte man Mulan zocken. Und Desperate Plan. Würde ja super ins Konzept passen. Wir sind ja verzweifelt von vorne bis hinten. Wobei nur Mulan mit Desperate Plan finde ich ein bisschen schwach. Man hat ja Doc auch noch. Aber Mulan schon, ja. Captain Hook und Mulan. Und Calhoun und Doc. Vielleicht noch irgendein Two-Drop. Wer wird das denn sein? Gucken wir uns mal den an. Den gleichen Shit für 2. Oh, da gibt's dann schon richtig viele. Könnte einfach Black Heron legen, 3/3 mit einem Lore Value. Challenge ist schon
I
gut.
do love seeing this card being in here because she is a card that I actually saw at National use to great in the limited. That one of the players was able to get this in their super sealed, and then it showed how powerful it was. And we see because in these kind of games, card draw is the name of the game, and that's why Doc is so powerful. But this is one where if she can survive a turn, which is a big if in some kind of steel deck, she can go ahead and get you 3 more cards.
Also im Prince Philip reprintet.
It is an investment.
Aber den zocke ich natürlich nicht, wenn ich stattdessen einfach 3/3. Wie weak ist er eigentlich? Er ist super outclass. Er ist einfach 1/3 Challenger 2 und jetzt dieser Black Heron 3/3. Fertig. Einfach nur more powerful. Oh, der Coachman. Ja, irgendwie scheiße.
Was a touch more formidable in my opinion, leaving Frank though with a Captain Hook, a Belle and a Genie, so still some pretty tough characters that we need to get through. Alex holding on to only 1 card in hand, no 2 cards, the Elsa and the Belle, so you've got to think next turn, I don't think there's a way we can hugely benefit from the Belle. I think it's far more likely we ink the Belle, we play the Elsa and then we exert the Yzma for the field of
Helga Sinclair könnte man considern. 0/4 hat Evasive in deinem Turn und Challenger +3.
Drastic times, drastic measures, and we're going to draw 2 cards. Raja into the ink.
Wow, Frank Karsten hat es doch noch reverse. Und gewinnt gleich schon wieder. Frank Karsten ist einfach gut. Anscheinend. Unlike Mike Loconto. Muss ich gleich zurücknehmen und Frank Karsten nicht mehr den Mike Loconto auf Lorcana nennen.
Knowing that Yzma was probably not too interested in any challenging right now, and Diablo, unless we get some kind of Jafar or a tiny adversary out there, is not too scary. But he is going to go ahead and quest with these 2, and then go ahead and clean up with the Captain Hook into the Diablo. You draw a card, but...
I mean, to be fair, that's another card. This Yzma wants us to have an empty hand here, right? So depending on what that card is that Alex drew, it could actually be more beneficial for Frank. And again, it is just getting another body off the board, another body that can quest, another body that could potentially add up our strength for Raging Fire numbers. But Frank Karsten looking to be in a very good position. Of course, if you're just joining us, this is round 12 of the Disney Lorcana Challenge.
Yes, it is.
At the top half of the screen for your convenience, and after this we will be progressing to the top 32. Super exciting.
incredibly exciting. And I mean, no matter what, I think we're going to see some Amethyst steals.
Ja.
So this is definitely a match that we're
Ich
going
werde
to want to
erstmal
pay attention to
progressen
because these players will
in
have
Richtung
we're
Bett jetzt
going to see
gleich.
this kind of deck along with the ones we mentioned earlier, the blurple of it all, Amethyst Sapphire. But here we go. We're going to go ahead and start the party here with Elsa, who, like we said, is good at changing the math and saying, I'm going to go ahead and exert you. Now, Smee will go ahead and deal 3 damage back to the Elsa who rushed into her after being exerted. But now we're going to go ahead and see, is he going to use... Ooh.
Ich denke mal, ihr habt auch nichts dagegen, ne? Wenn wir dann einfach morgen Abend weiter gucken.
Yeah.
Oder ihr guckt irgendwann auf YouTube, ich lade ja dann hoch.
We would much prefer to feel the power with Yzma, but we've got to slow Frank Karsten down, remove some of these bodies. Just here, we've got 2, 4, 5, 6 lore on board, 7 lore if you count for the Calhoun challenge.
Ich denke mal, so machen wir es einfach, ja.
I think Frank's running away with this now.
Ja, Frank sieht aus, als würde er super gewinnen.
Gonna draw a card with the what comes next ability.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that that other Genie who is very dry,
Frank's Board sieht aus, als würde er super
survive
gewinnen.
that challenge into that Elsa and perfectly sized.
Frank an sich, schwer zu
damage.
durchschauen.
He's deciding, does he need to? Because you do get to the point where sometimes you get
race.
Yeah, you can go, wait a minute, I don't have to. But he is playing a little bit more conservative here. Yeah, because I mean, some people say, it's fine, and then they go ahead and explode with a very explosive dock chain. And this is a way where it's, listen, I'll just go ahead and mitigate that risk right now. He's deciding here to challenge in,
yeah,
possibly.
He's deciding if he wants to do it with the Calhoun, meaning it would trade and he would gain 2 lore. Alternatively, the Bell-accomplished Mystic could take out this Yzma very cleanly and survive to tell the tale. It seems like Frank Karsten is eyeing up the idea of the Calhoun doing the job to gain 2 lore, and that is what's going to happen, taking us to 10, and then we're requesting for 3, going up to 13, and there's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 lore on board. So this is representing game for Frank Karsten if Alex cannot interfere, and we're even going to play a Tinkerbell for 2 more lore, so we need to be able to remove 3 lore from the board, or this game is going to be over, and Frank Karsten will no doubt be proceeding, and that's it. Alex is going to extend the handshake, and Frank Karsten takes the 2-0 and will be proceeding into the top 32. Katie, how did you enjoy